This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Peg.
Good afternoon, Pete, and good afternoon to our listeners.
Yes, and here we go again. So Peg and I are business coaches, and we have a coaching firm here in Columbus, Ohio, and it's myself, Pete, and Peg, and Michelle.
And
Don
Hackett, and Michelle Cacasola. And right. So what we're going to do
today... You just
today,
like saying Cacasola.
You know what I do? I do like saying that. So what we're going to do today and every day on our show is we want to have you, as you're listening, take a nugget or two away. Listen to everything we have to say. Some of it will apply to you. Some of it won't. Take a couple things. Take a couple things from what we're giving, suggestions, and apply it to your business.
Yeah, we want you to do something with it. You can't keep it in your pocket.
Right, exactly.
You either have to do something yourself or you have to teach it to somebody else.
We want you to do something with it.
Or both.
Because guess what's going to happen in the end? It's going to make your life a little better,
right.
or a lot better, or
That's
somebody
what it's
else's.
all about.
It's about improving. And so in coaching, we're all about improvement, constant improvement.
Yeah, it's about helping you to get where you want to go faster. It's really about getting you there faster.
And farther.
Most of you know where you want to go. If you don't, let's think about that.
Right, exactly. That is the first good pause, is where is it you want to go?
Yeah, let's make
usually,
sure you know.
That is our first question we ask people is, okay, so why are we here and where are we going?
Now, I just talked to a business owner at lunch, and they had been running so hard in the last year that they didn't have time to work on things. Now he said, it's time to start working on some things.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about that? And what we're saying is working on your business versus in your business.
Right.
Like, when are you working on it? And those are the things that are not urgent, but the most important.
Right.
So,
yep.
so today's show, we're going to call it, Alan, I think what we're going to say, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. And I guess to give it maybe even more of a specific title would be as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, the steps. If you're a mid-sized business, which our definition it would be somewhere between 20 and 200 employees, and you want to grow, these are the steps.
Right. And really in any business, no matter even small,
yeah.
that won't, or even larger, like big corporations, we do this
some
with.
of the steps may be a little different.
It could be
if
multiple
they're much
departments.
bigger or much smaller.
Yeah, it could be multiple departments, and exactly. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go as it's easy as 1, 2, and 3 to get started. I guess that's what we'll label it.
Yeah,
it's easy as 1, 2, and 3 to get started. But before that, we want to do some good news.
Oh, some good news, yeah. Why do we do good news, Peg? What is the reason for that?
Well, I'll tell you what. In this day and age, it's really easy to find out what's going wrong. It's easy to focus on what's going wrong. And what we want to do is talk about what's going right, because it's all about positive thought, positive attitude. Not that we're ignoring the negative. It's that we want to focus a little bit on that because nobody else is doing that.
Well, yeah. Every news outlet that you turn on, whether it's radio, TV, newspaper, there's bad news all over the place.
Right.
Because it sells stuff.
Right.
So
That's it, because it sells stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, duh. Yeah, it works,
exactly.
man.
Because it gets people all anxious and what's going on.
It gets people going. Makes them buy things.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay, so here's this is out of the Wall Street Journal. It says the Labor Department last Tuesday said that the U.S. economy has arrived at a remarkable juncture. There were 6.5 million unemployed Americans in March, and the number of jobs waiting to be filled that month was 6.5 million. Same exact number. That is, there are almost as many job openings as job seekers, a near match not seen for many years.
Wow, that is good news. That is
Yep.
good news. And you know what's interesting is all of us in our businesses, we're seeing that because guess what? It's getting more difficult to find people because the pool there, everybody has a job. So what are you going to do to keep your people, and what are you going to do to get better people? That's we're not going to talk about that today, but it's a question to ask yourself.
March's unemployment rate is 4.1%. Wow.
4.1% in March.
Yep.
Okay.
And it used to be, we said 5% was full employment, supposedly full employment.
Well, because,
there's always going to be people moving from city to city or whatever it is and having to go. And there's another article here that says, unemployed, now is a good time to get hired. And it's got the same kind of a thing here. The number of unemployed who are actively looking for a job fell by almost 600,000. The number of people unemployed who were actively looking for a job fell by 600,000, reflecting steady hiring. If candidates have 75 or 85% of the job description, they're ready to go.
Well, it is time now. This is good times.
The largest job growth, this is interesting, in openings over the year came in the business services category. There were 193,000 more available positions in the broad field that includes accountants, software developers, temporary workers, and other office workers. Other openings in retail, high turnover field, rose by 140,000, suggesting industries might be willing to pull workers from that sector. The fast-growing healthcare sector had 139,000 more openings in March than a year ago.
Wow. I liked how the business industry, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, business services.
I would have never guessed that.
Okay, then last thing,
piece of good news
one more thing, and I see, I worked for many years in unionized chemical plants, and one of the things I always keep an eye on is that the UPS has always had a great relationship with the Teamsters.
Right.
And they run a great business, and every driver that I've ever seen in any business, they're coming in and out all the time. They're friendly, they're fast, they're efficient.
They hustle.
UPS makes money.
It's been wonderful.
They've done a great job of working together, and it's awesome. And now UPS is saying the Teamsters Union, the company and the union, are discussing a 2-tier wage system that would allow the company to hire lower-paid workers on Saturdays, on Sundays, on weekends, including Sundays, because they're overwhelmed with the amount of packages they have to deliver. So they want to have like the high-level workforce during the week, and then some lower-paid employees on the weekends, which is really
they work as
amazing.
A team.
Yeah,
I guess that's why they call them.
They're taking a common problem and saying, well,
interesting.
Yeah,
Very good.
I think it's good.
Well, Pete, those were some good pieces of news, and this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk. And we just missed the good news, but we're on to our topic of today.
We are.
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Let's get started.
Yeah. So let's say you've got a business that has 100 employees or 200 employees, and you've got some things going on that you believe you can get better results. And this happens a lot where you say, oh, we've been at this sales level for 3 to 5 years. We've been in the same rough range, and we haven't grown. Or we've been in the same range, but our profitability has eroded some. Or
we hear this too. We're going to give you some examples of what we're hearing out there. Or we're growing quickly, and our team is getting sort of upside down, meaning things are going off the rails a bit, whether it's customer service or relationships with each other. Because you are moving so
Customers
quickly.
have quit. That happens. Gotten upset and taken off.
Or team members have quit. Or you can't hire fast enough because we're growing at such a high pace. Right. We hear a lot of that right now. Pete, what would you say? Like it's more about probably growing quickly.
Well, one common thing across all industries that we're working with anyway, and we're pretty diversified, is that it is challenging to find people. It's not impossible because we've just found some good people in the last month for a couple of clients. So
we hire for a lot of people. It can
be done,
so, yeah.
But you have to take a couple different approaches than you used to in the past. It's not quite as easy.
Right. And so what we wanted to do with this show today is tell you a little bit about how we work. And two things. Number one is calling us to how do we get started. It starts with a phone call and a conversation on the phone. But that's one option. But we wanted to talk about, okay, so how easy is it? And so in the nuggets that we're going to give you throughout the show after this coming break in the next segments, we're going to tell you the steps that we take, how we take it.
Right.
And then how is it that, okay, so then what happens? Like we want to give you examples of case studies.
Yeah, so we're just doing this now with a new client, and we've done it many times with a lot of clients in the past. And we're going to give you some examples at each step of what are some of the things that we learned and discovered, and some surprises and some things that were not such surprises with different folks.
But here's the thing is you're not alone. You're not alone. No matter where you are, there's other people feeling your pain.
So I'll rattle through these steps right before the break here. We're going to talk to the top management, whether it's the owner or the owners. We're going to sit down and make sure that we understand your perspective, Peg and I both.
Right.
To understand clearly where you are, where you think you are, and where you want to be, and a rough time frame. in 2 years I want to be here, in 5 years I want to retire, whatever that happens to be, or you want to get to a certain sales level with a net profit of so-and-so. The next thing we would do is take a survey of the employees, and that would include the upper management team and your managers at whatever level they're at, plus a subset of your employees. If you have 100 people in the warehouse, so we'll talk to 10 of them and make sure it's kind of random so we get a good perspective there. Then we're gonna give you some action steps from that, our observations from those interactions, and then we'll get the management team together for an alignment, which we'll talk about. From that, we're going to identify a number of people that would benefit from ongoing coaching.
And then explain to them, how do we sustain what we just did? How do we sustain all that we've transformed? So when we return, we'll start with step number 1 and talk a little bit about how we do it, what to expect, and how you can get results from that.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more Business Talk.
So we're talking today about 1, 2, 3, how do you get started if you have a business that is underperforming or maybe should be growing much faster than you know it could grow faster than it is.
Right. So Pete and I, and this isn't in every client, every business, whether it's executive, small business, whatever the deal is, it's customized.
Right.
So here's one example. So we have a client, let's say, that's growing rapidly. This happens all the time. And through this growth of this large growth, we're bringing in, let's talk about other leadership team. Like we're bringing in different leaders on the team. Mm-hmm. So where do you start?
New people from outside the company.
New people. So a lot of times you might be sitting here and you have a leadership team and you go, what do I do? I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm the only one that sees this. How do I start? Well, first of all, you'll want to call us up because bringing in an outside perspective, somebody that's not tied to the company or has no personal gain or loss, and this is, I think, critical in order to get really great results. Wouldn't you think that, Pete?
Yeah, and how we approach it almost all the time is as if we own shares in the company.
I like that. I always like that. You say that. You go,
we're part owners. Yeah. We just bought half of the company, and we don't want you to drive the bus off the cliff. In fact, we'd like you to drive it to paradise.
I like that. Yeah. You always say, Pete, when Pete, I always like it when you come in, you go, okay, I own this company now. This is what I would do it, for a start. And so the first thing is you really want to, and when was the last time you did this, is you went around and you asked the leadership team, whether it's, you can call it a president, a CEO, or a VP or director.
Top management.
CFO. Managers. Yeah. Go around and ask them from their perspective what's going on. Asking him some great questions like, okay, tell me what's going great.
Open-ended questions.
Open-ended questions for a conversation. Mm-hmm. Now, you could do this on a survey, like a Survey Monkey or a form that would be anonymous.
We like to do it face-to-face.
And why is that, Pete?
Well, I think it's more impactful. And I think one of the things that we found over the last several years of doing it face-to-face and making sure that we do this, not just start working on things within the company with just the owner, and the employees will find out that the owner has a coach now. But if we start working with the team immediately, we get more buy-in and things change faster.
I like that.
And people can be heard.
Mm-hmm. That's a big thing. People want to be heard.
Right.
I like that you said that.
If I sit down across from you and let them know that, hey, I'm going to take notes, but it's not going to have your name on it. But I am going to take notes so that I remember what you were really concerned about and what you were really thrilled about, and make sure that I get that impact. I can feel it. Then it helps us a lot when we start working with the leadership team.
Yeah. And I think a couple things. So having somebody come in and doing we like to call it a diagnostic. Mm-hmm. Sort of like a doctor would come in and you go in and get a physical. So when you go in and get a physical, you have to answer a lot of questions. They're taking the temperature, figuring out what's going on, history, figuring that all out. And then they sit down and say, this is A, B, C, and D. Basically, when you're talking to your team and your leadership team, you're getting an updated diagnostic. And we would recommend doing this at least once a year.
So top management first. We want to get their perspective on things. And it's various departments. It could be finance and operations and so on, and sales. And then it'd be, the next level would be the employees.
Right. You need to get their perspective either as well.
Yeah.
Because,
it's not all of your employees, but it would be sampling.
Yeah. So let's say you have a warehouse person and a salesperson and an office person and an engineer. Like, get them from different aspects so you can get a holistic type of feedback. Now, Pete, we've done this quite often. Pete and I are business coaches, and this is business talk, and we're talking about how is it that we get started. And we put it, it's easy as 1, 2, 3, and the first step being just asking some great questions. Right. So in the past, some of these questions that we ask, give me some examples of what we've heard at different companies. So when you're being asked what's going great and what do we need to work on, what were some of the things that we hear most often that?
Well, they're all over the map.
Yeah.
Well, here's a couple. So one is, this family member is fighting with that family member, and everybody knows it.
That does happen a lot. Oh, my. That's a good one. That's a good one, because Pete and I do specialize in working with family-owned businesses.
We do.
And so it's not uncommon for us as a family member, if I own the company, I'm going to let my daughter or niece, I'm going to let them be at a certain level because they're family, even though, guess what? They're not educated enough or they don't have the experience enough, but I'm going to put them in the position because they're family. And it can create a lot of issues.
And we've heard this one before, and you guys, business owners who've been around a while may have heard this, is that we start a process or we read a book together, and then a few months later it's something else. We go to another workshop and we start doing that. And we change directions.
Yeah, so it's not uncommon for when we walk in the door, they go, oh, you're the flavor of the month. Oh, because we get that quite often. You're right. Gosh, you have a good memory. It is funny because we're saying, well, when you go through our steps of 1, 2, 3, we're normally not the flavor of the month because we stay around a bit. Right. But you do hear that. Another one we hear, I was thinking this, is they don't listen to me.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They don't listen to me.
Or it's related to that, is there's not enough communication. That happens almost every time. That's
the number one thing. How could I not say that? That was
no matter
perfect.
how good you are at it. We always get that.
Well, it was funny because we were talking with a business owner, Pete, the other day, and they were saying, I don't know, should we have a meeting? Like, should we tell them all of that? And I said, I can tell you one thing. We may hear that you have too many meetings, but it's not because I don't want to be talked to. It's because the meetings are ineffective. But we never hear, I know too much, or they tell me too much information.
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever heard that.
We've never
They tell
heard
me
that.
too much.
They tell me too much. They talk too much. Their communication is too strong.
Yeah.
Like, that's normally, you're not going to over communicate. You can have poor meetings and your meeting structure might not be appropriate, but what is your communication plan?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's a good point. We can come back to that. But I think if you do, if people do complain about meetings and you stop them, you may be much better off to figure out, well, how can I do this meeting in a third of the time? How can I get it done in 10 minutes?
You know what happened is we did do this with one client, and we did get that, he's great. He does a lot of great things. He's really good in all these areas, but he's not very good at conducting meetings. So as we were coaching him about the meetings, you know what he did? It was brilliant. He went ahead and he took this one gentleman who's really gregarious, but very focused, very determined, and he said, you're going to run the meetings now, and I'm going to sit down. He just had somebody else.
He's a facilitator.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
He picked a great facilitator on his team to run the meetings because he's like, I'm not doing this well.
Well, that's a great strategy. The other thing that I've done and we've done with clients too in the past is pick somebody who's not emotionally engaged in the topic to be the facilitator of the meeting.
Oh, that is
Hey, Ralph,
perfect.
you keep this thing on track, will you? Make sure we're out of here in 40 minutes. Cover these 3 points in this order, and I'm going to just participate.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes
Absolutely.
you're the boss, so you're going to run the meeting. You don't need to run all the meetings.
Mm-mm.
You really don't.
No.
And maybe shouldn't.
Exactly.
Okay, so employees. So we talked to top management. We're doing the employee survey. What are some other things? It's happened before where people don't want to talk.
Oh, so we have run into that.
Occasionally.
So one of the things that we want to encourage, and we really like our method, which is in person, and it can be in person. Obviously, there's people that are out of town, and when that's the case, we can do Skype or phone, whatever is most convenient. We do a lot of phone, especially if people are busy. We've had to work with people on the road.
Or if you're in other cities.
Yes, we just say, okay, meanwhile, while you're traveling from one place to another. But here's the one thing is it's open-ended questions without a time limit, so that they get to be heard and we get to do follow-up questions based on what we're hearing. Because when you're truly listening, you can ask questions to dig in to really understand where they're coming from.
In other words, they answer the first question, but it left a little
Right.
You're not quite sure what they meant, so you ask another question.
Right, exactly.
And keep going until you run out of material.
Well, and the thing is, let's say you're in it, and this has happened to us multiple times where maybe not everybody likes one manager or one person might be, this happens a lot, a little rough. I mean, almost every company has that. One manager is a high achiever, but maybe a little emotional or over the top. We might hear that again and again and again. You know, it's that Terry, you know, if Terry would just... Sorry, Terry, if he would just, you know, not be as harsh or not curse or not scream or get red in the face or... So what we do look for, though, is when you're getting feedback, a lot of times there's that one-off person that has an axe to grind. That's not what we want you to listen to. We want you to listen to the patterns in which you're seeing. So you want to get a group of people enough where you can start seeing patterns. And it's really good because it's not just about an individual, but it's the company as a whole, because we're doing a culture check here.
Yeah, that's really what it's about.
We're checking the temperature of the culture.
Yes, exactly. What are some of the customs? What are how do you treat each other? Mm-hmm. How do you solve problems? How well do you communicate when things go wrong without hurting each other's feelings and things like that? So we're really trying to figure out how the place really ticks.
Well, and what you said, Pete, we have had some people who say, I don't want to talk. If they don't want to talk, that's okay. That this isn't this. I'm not going to force you to talk. This is your opportunity to communicate. And I get if you don't trust me, there must be a reason why.
Yeah. Now in some companies, we have had the managers pick people to talk to, and in some cases, we put sign-up sheets up and said, "Hey, there's 5 slots in your department. Just sign up."
Yes, would you? And a lot of times, if we see people not wanting to talk, that's a bigger problem because if it's a pattern, it means there's no trust.
And that's pretty unusual.
It is unusual. Yeah. It is. But we've had people who say, I just don't feel comfortable, and we want to respect that. That's fine. You can go back to your seat, and you don't have to put in your, somebody else can come in, and that's fine. Because they might not think it's anonymous, or they might think that there's some retribution.
But I think one of the keys with this, and you said it, is that it's open-ended questions. It's what are some things that are going well here? Or some things that you love about this place, and then what are some opportunities for improvement? What are the things we know we could do better?
And then
and you almost always get feedback, and one of the things we're trying to do is do a bit of a gravity check on top management's perspective. They may be thinking one thing is a huge problem, and it's really not to some of the employees.
And that's the neat part, is when we first come in and talk, Pete and I, we want to talk to the top leadership, whether it's the CFO, CEO, director, manager, and we want to ask them what their perspective is, and then talk to the leadership group, see their perspective, and then take a subset of the team members and get their perspective, and let's see if it's accurate. Because that's alignment, is what's happening in the company, what's happening, good or bad. Now, remember that. It's good and bad.
Right.
Because we want to create a pattern of good, too. Like, what do we need to keep doing?
Right.
I remember there was one good that came out. We did this with a company, and we had, one thing that he does all the time that I love is he does handwritten letters and handwritten cards, and it's always so thoughtful. I probably had 6 people say that, and after I had to deliver it to him, he goes, well, the good news is they love it. The bad news is it means I have to keep doing it.
Yeah, darn. It
was a lot of work.
It takes a lot of time, right?
It takes a lot of time. I said, well, it's worth it because obviously, that was a pattern we saw, is continue to do this.
Right.
So when we return, Pete, what are we going to do? We're going to start talking about, now that we've got the surveys,
we've done the survey. Now we're going to go back to the management team and tell them, here's a couple themes that we saw, and then we're going to prepare for the alignment.
So when we return, we're going to talk about, I guess, step number 2.
All right.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
So we're talking today about how we get started with a new mid-sized company to help them rapidly grow.
Well, and it's really simple. And if you want to hear, so I know you might have just joined us and just tuned in. Our first steps were all in the first couple breaks or couple segments. Go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com. Right. That's our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com. Click on 98.9, and you'll go directly to all of our archive shows, including, well, this one won't be on the air. So if it's Saturday,
days.
give us a few days to get it loaded on. But you'll see our shows all in their entirety, and then you'll see different segments.
Yeah. So we started with a top management perspective. We got their understanding of where they are, where they want to go. And then we talked to a subset of employees across the company.
Right.
And other managers.
So now we have what we would call diagnostic.
Right.
We have created a viewpoint from an outsider's viewpoint from a professional consultant, Pete and I, who've done this for 13 years. And we're saying, okay, this is what we're hearing from all these different perspectives.
Right.
Here's a pattern that we're seeing, right?
Right. Here are the top things that are great that we need to keep doing, and here are the things that we could improve on.
And so we deliver that to the leaders.
Leadership, right?
The leadership.
And most of the time, we'll have a lively discussion and decide that one of the things we like to do is come up with some priorities, because you usually have more things you could work on than you have time to work on.
Right.
And some things need to be fixed first before you can go farther.
Right. So give some examples. Let's give some examples of what we've done in some companies.
Well, there are some cases where this just happened with a client, a manufacturing client, where the a department was overwhelmed.
Yes.
And in this case, it was the HR department, but they needed another employee to help handle the volume of hiring that needed to be done.
Right.
That was urgent.
That was urgent.
You would not be able to hire enough if you didn't get some help.
Right.
It just wasn't possible to happen.
Right. Exactly.
So sometimes there's immediate things that have to happen.
And sometimes it could be like cash flow, where we've done it where they're like, okay, there's only one thing we need to work on, getting our cash flow in order. Another one, team-wise, I'm thinking team and leadership-wise. Some have been that our org chart isn't absolutely right. Like we don't have enough people doing certain things. We need either more people or less people, or we need to switch the people. So we've had some of that happen.
Sometimes there are departments that are not communicating or playing nice with each other.
We've had that.
That is not an uncommon thing.
Yes, so that might be a place
and
to
that
start.
might be a little bit, might take a few weeks or months to fix. But that's one of the things that we start with.
In some of these, to your point, I'm glad you brought that up, Pete. It's some of you, okay, so after you get the diagnostic, think about it just like going to a doctor. Some of it, it's going to take a while. Like if you need to lose 40 pounds, that's not going to be in 3 weeks. You know what? It took you a while to get there. It took you a while to get that 40 pounds on. Allow yourself the time to get it off.
Do I really need to lose 40 pounds?
Don't get impatient. And a lot of times, one thing as Pete and I are working with companies is generally business owners, leaders, or the managers can be impatient, and it's a trait that we have.
Sure. Yeah.
Which serves us well sometimes because it's striving for excellence. Sometimes we have to be patient to allow change to happen, to allow us to lose the 40
to make
pounds.
it permanent.
Right. Because can we try and just starve ourselves and not eat for 2 weeks? And yes, we could do that, but does that give us the habit? Does it change and teach us what? Do we learn how to eat? Do we create a new habit?
We want change to be permanent.
Right.
In order to do that, we need to create good habits.
And some of it could be really quick, to your point, Pete. Like it could be, I'm just going to say, change your hair color. Like as easy, I'm thinking physically. Yeah. Okay, all I have to do is change my hair color. Okay, great.
Right.
Or maybe I'm at the doctor and the doctor says, all I need you to do is take a vitamin.
Simple.
Okay. Some are simple, some are a little bit longer, but we're going to sprinkle a little bit of all of that in there when we do our diagnostic.
So we got back to the upper management team and maybe the management team and given them the results of the survey and our observations in some of the areas where we would suggest to start. We help them to decide, well, here's the top few things we should work on. Then we have an alignment, and that survey really prepares us for the alignment to be able to spend our time on the right things.
Well, and you know what? That is a good point, because it prepares the leadership to what are we going to spend the time on. And I'm going to think of, we had a great team that we work with that we did this for. And one thing we realized is in order to gain alignment, one of the things we needed to do, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the alignment, is we all needed to get on the same page of what it is, how we expected everybody to behave, and what our expectations were, how we treated each other. And in this case, we had...
How many people were in this?
This was a 6-person,
okay,
and they were more equal partners, so it wasn't like there was a hierarchy, but it was a 6-person leadership team.
Right.
And what we needed to do and have them understand is that how does everybody agree that we should be treating each other? Let's write down and define what that is.
Yep.
And then let's figure out what happens if we don't do it. Like if...
So consequences.
So here's an example. Okay. Maybe one partner is left out, which is not uncommon in a leadership group. Okay, one person might be left out. Like we're going to all do things. well, how are we going to prevent that? And if that happens, what are we going to do?
What do we do about it?
And then that allowed it to happen. That allowed a conversation to transpire of, well, why is it happening? Well, Sam isn't making decisions quick enough. And we know that he's holding us back.
So we go around him.
So we're not including him. And Sam's saying, well, all I want to know is all the details, and I need to weigh it thoroughly before you quickly make a decision.
Gotcha.
So it was a really great conversation. It allowed Sam to understand what was happening. But you know what else it did? It allowed us to put some triggers in place that were created by that team and agreed upon that team that said, okay, we need to move fast while allowing opinion, but we need decisions to be moved quickly. So what we decided is, Sam, we're going to include you in everything. And our promise, like everybody promised, Sam, we're going to tell you everything. Which they do to this day.
Okay.
And we're going to make a decision. We're going to make it then, and then we're going to move on, and we can't come back and change it. And he had agreed to that. And it worked out well.
Sure.
Sam agreed. And I mean, it was a big behavior change. But when you're working with the team, that's one of the alignment parts. It's called creating rules of the game, rules of our culture, the rules of how we're going to treat each other.
Like once we've decided we're going in this direction, you can't come back after a few months and say, now, wait a minute.
Right. It's a really nice, I think that's, Pete, it's one of my favorite things we do with teams. Okay. And it gives everybody a voice. It really does. So a couple things that we said, and again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and one of the things we talked about in the alignment is figuring out what the patterns were, right? And then what are we going to work on? We pick that. Yep. Then we create some rules of the game. What else do we do?
How we're going to treat each other. That's one of the big things. The rules of the game are really about the boundaries that we're going to set that we're not going to go over. And rules could be anything as simple as do what you say you're going to do, as treat each other with respect, and then talk about what does that really mean. Because it can be different for different people.
Well, in some...
So when you raise your voice, it hurts my feelings. Well, it might not hurt your feelings if I do it, But we need to talk about those things.
Well, and that's another part of the alignment process is when you're working with your leadership team, and you've got to ask yourself the last time you've done this. We want you to do this every year.
Right.
So if you haven't done it, you need to reach out to us at takeactionbusinesscoaching.com. But Pete, one of the things I like what you just said is we sit around and talk about how we're going to treat each other. But even before that, we educate the leadership team on what it is to be a leader. And a lot of times we forget about that. What does leadership mean? And we educate on different principles of what it is, whether it's taking ownership.
Yeah, and there are times we've asked groups, give me some descriptive words of great leaders.
That's mm-hmm.
and start putting them up on the board or on the flip chart.
Right.
And you get different words from different people.
And we define those and we break it down because a lot of times right now, if your team is not in alignment, which most teams are not, I'm just saying that, it's because you're so busy. You haven't been working on yourself. You haven't been concentrating on your team because you're responding to your clients. Most people are super busy right now.
Right.
So we're not taking the time to get aligned. And what we do is we get away from what leadership is. And we forget about treating each other as a leader and getting people to follow you, no matter where you are in the organization. Mm-hmm. And so that gets forgotten. And so we like to revisit that and define it. What does leadership mean? How do we do that?
How do we exhibit it here?
How do we exhibit it? What are the traits?
And then how do we develop others?
So defining all of that and then going into, okay, so how are we going to treat each other? Mm-hmm. Defining that too, and then creating some educational part because you know what? How much are you learning? How much are you growing? How much are you developing yours? Because to be a great team member, you must first be a great person. And how much of you are you working on? So
we talked about, I think it was a couple weeks ago, about one of the speakers that we saw out in San Diego said you should be spending 10% of your time developing yourself.
Absolutely.
10% of your month, 10% of your year, 10% of your pay.
Right, exactly. And a lot of times in that alignment and that second step, we're using that as an opportunity of development too. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times you are where you are because of what you know.
Or don't know.
Exactly. It's either you know it and you haven't done it, or you don't know it and you need to know it. It's either way. So okay. Education really changes a lot. And putting the time, effort, and resources into that can help you grow alignment. So Pete, when we return, we're going to do our last segment.
We're going to talk about how we would select people that would benefit from coaching.
Yes.
And where should we apply our resources to get the most out of it.
And why we do it because, up to this point, it's been quick fixes. Now it's about sustainable Sustainable change.
Sustainable change.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
So we've been talking today about the steps we take when we get a new client on board that has a fairly large team, and we need to get everybody engaged and pointed in the right direction for growth and improvement. And the steps that we've covered already are talking to the top management team, going out and surveying the employees and bringing that survey information back to the management team, and then having an alignment. How would you sum up the alignment, Peg?
The alignment, I would say, is it's when you get your team, and it could be a subset of your team, meaning the leadership, or it could be the entire team, but we start with the leadership team, getting them all on the same page by learning the same thing, agreeing how they're going to move forward, and then how they're going to do it, and if it doesn't happen, what they'll do because of it.
And there are some businesses where we spent a lot of time in the alignment teaching concepts and how those concepts are applied in leadership and management, that kind of thing. Sometimes we've also walked out of those alignments with an action plan. Here's a couple things that we're going to go do.
Right, exactly. And it's really good because it's the one time where you get everybody on the same page and everybody is hearing the same thing, because we like to define culture as the language we use, meaning are we using the same terms? Are we believing in the same concepts as far as leadership? And then it's the relationships that are created. And that's truly creating a culture. And that's what we're doing, is we're aligning your culture to be the same. And sometimes when your values might be mistaken, or I shouldn't say mistaken, I should say different. Thank you. Because it's mistaken from the team's culture possibly, then that can create misalignment. So we have one company that right now that are taking their values, which we would encourage you to do, and they keep them alive, keep them in their meeting, and then when they're hiring people, they're communicating them. Here's what's important to us. Here's our culture.
Well, and they use them as a way to not select people.
Well, exactly. So that would be the alignment. And then here's the thing about Pete and I, we're business coaches, consultants, trainers. We do all of that, and we do training, and we believe in training because education is paramount to coaching. The more you learn, the more you earn. The more you're learning, the better you're getting.
But it's a part of coaching.
Thank you, Pete.
It's not coaching.
It's a part of
because
coaching.
I've done it in the past, and when I'm thinking of my corporate career, I've gone off to 1 day or half day things and learned some things.
Right.
And then I come back to work, and I just get back to work, and within a few weeks, I remember some of the stuff, but I'm not really applying it.
Yes, I think,
and that's where the coaching comes in.
Right.
How do we lock in the gains and create new habits?
Well, Pete, you always say what's your saying? It's sufficient, but not enough. I forget.
It's necessary, but not sufficient.
That's it. Thank you. It's necessary, but not sufficient. Meaning, you need to be trained.
We teach set theory on this show.
Yeah. So really, here's the thing: is once you're going to these training, what's sustaining it? What is making sure? Because there's different behavioral patterns we need to change. There's your behavior, but then there's also perception, which are two different things, by the way.
Right.
And how are you going to make sure that what we agreed upon is sustained? Because, have you ever been at the end of a meeting, you're like, this was great. You're giving each other high fives. I love it. This is great. And then you walk out the door. Everything's good we usually say that shot in the arm will last you 3 weeks, maybe 4.
And sometimes it's less.
And sometimes it could be more. But generally not. It's what are we going to do to sustain? So let's talk about what we do for sustainability of the change environment, the culture that we're going to.
So one of the things is and this happens sometimes during the meeting, but in a lot of cases it happens afterwards, is getting back with the top management leadership group again and saying, okay, who in that room, if you had 20 people in the room, who in that room really demonstrated that they want to grow and they want to work on themselves?
Right. Or, and maybe they didn't do it that day, but to your point, Pete, it could be they did that before or whatever. Right. Who in that room do we know that will really like to apply the learning?
And benefit from coaching. And
then also, I like the benefit from coaching, but think about it on this way. If you're going to invest money, I always there's this one gal we coach, and I just love working with her because everything that we talk about, she goes and applies it to the rest of her team. So where's the greatest point of leverage? So if you are dealing with a leader that has impact over a lot of different people, that would be a candidate that would be a perfect coaching candidate. It would be somebody that's going to apply what we learned.
Somebody who's willing and capable
Right.
of taking this on for self-improvement, and also would have a great impact on people around them.
Well, and I have to tell you, we coached people at the Scott's Miracle Grow Company and have for years. And oh my, one of the last people we coached, Pete, he was over quite a few people. And what he did is he would just completely, like, we would talk about concepts and applications, and then he would sit there and just take it to his team and apply it. And then
Right
just,
away, right?
And so taking the learning and allowing it to be shared with everyone allows the culture, again, the language and the concepts we're learning and the application, the relationships we create the culture, and he would spread it. So our time together had great benefit for many. Because the impact on all the relationships and all the
That's
touches.
when you know you have a good coaching candidate.
Yes.
In an organization that will go out and immediately use it and share it with everybody.
Right. Right. Exactly. And how we work, how Pete and I work as a coach. And again, if you're interested, you could always go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, and we have a little form on there you can fill out, and we can hook up on a
Or you
conversation.
can call at 614-306-7922.
So either way of those, either one of those, and once you do, you could share coaching with other executives. So it doesn't have to be just one, or it could be. It depends on, again, every company is different, every engagement is different. It depends what you need, but allowing that sustainable coaching to move on and allow that growth, and that's a gift. Coaching is a gift. There's no doubt about it. You should be excited to meet with your coach. If you're not, you have the wrong coach. Because you know that that's an opportunity of growth. It's an opportunity that I'm going to get better. And I get excited because we're going to learn, we're going to apply. I'm not alone. I know I can get this done, and I'm just going to be better because of it. And some of it can be uncomfortable. It's not always just joyful, right?
Right.
You're gonna,
absolutely.
I mean, you're going to have to do different things.
That's why they call it a comfort zone. It's nice and warm and cozy in there, right?
It's funny. Allie is my 17-year-old Pete, and we talk about comfort zone all over and coaching. She's been coached for 14 years herself from me. Yeah. And she's always like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable with this. And she turns to me and says, Mom, I know. It means I'm growing. I'm doing something new.
This is good.
So really, I guess that would be the steps of engaging, it's easy as 1, 2, and 3 getting started.
That's the process.
How is it that we get started and move forward? Because a lot of times we talk to people and they're at a state of either, oh my God, I'm so busy, I'm going to burst.
Right.
Or I'm so frustrated.
Or they don't know how to fix it themselves, so they don't know how you could fix it.
Right. And generally, you shouldn't be fixing it yourself because it takes an outsider to communicate with the team for them to listen. Because you can talk all day long, but you're in the situation, so it's going to be hard for them to really get what you're saying when you bring in an outsider and they listen because it's an outside perspective.
Well, a lot of times we hear managers and owners say, well, I told him to do that 6 months ago. And all of a sudden he's doing it because you said That happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Right.
And we have a lot of husband-wife owners that work together. And
brothers
sister, and families. And they're
like,
you're not listening to me. We say, it's not about family. It's literally, it's because
it's your brother. You're not going to listen to him. You
know? No. And Pete and I, we have a team, and we have other people equally coming in and talking to our team and saying the same thing we do to our team, but they listen to them, not us.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just like parents, you know?
Right.
It's a lot like parenting. If you're a parent, you tell your kids something, and then the other parent or the coach says it, well, they're the most bright person in the whole world. I've never heard this before, even though you've been saying it all day long. So that if you're interested in this, or we also have a 90-day plan, Pete.
We do, on June 8th.
Yes, explain what
in Grandview, and what we have is a group of clients, probably 35 to 45 people in a room, and we spend the day helping them create a plan for the next quarter. So it'll be for the third quarter this year. And what we're going to do is we always teach a topic, and we have a client coming in. He's going to talk about marketing for about 40 minutes. And the rest of the day will be spent on developing your own customized 90-day plan for your business.
Yes, you'll be around other business owners, and you're welcome to bring you or a team member with you for free, complimentary.
Yeah, if you'd like to come, give us a call, 614-306-7922. We'll get you a seat.
That sounds great. Great. And or you can call us for a complimentary coaching session if you're interested.
That as well.
We'll talk on the phone and figure this all out.
So this last thing, I saw this article on, and it's in the out of the Wall Street Journal, but it's a book review, and the name of the book is called In Defense of Troublemakers.
Okay.
Now, being a past former troublemaker myself, it's a long time ago. I'm really good now, right, Beck?
Yes, you are.
And this author, the guy's name is Charlen Nemeth. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but there it is. This person talks about avoiding consensus. If you're a business owner, this Ms. Nemeth is a professor of psychology at the University of California in Berkeley, spent decades studying the effects of groupthink in multiple settings. Her original research was in decision-making by juries, how they went about reaching them, and whether their verdicts were correct. She found that juries that included dissenters considered more facts and more ways of viewing those facts. Consensus, she found, narrows thought while dissent opens the mind. In the process of her research, she also discovered how susceptible we all are to a majority of opinion.
Right. And
so if you're at Thanksgiving dinner and everybody's voting this way, and old Uncle Charlie voices up.
I like that. I do like that. We have one company we coached, Pete. I don't know if you remember, but they believed in this so much that it was good to have someone in there that they actually would label a person, okay, you've got to speak.
To do it on purpose. Yes, to be the dissenter.
You have to purposely be that person.
Right.
And you've got to listen to why not, because we're so busy and we want the meeting to be over and we're like, it's good, and move on.
Right.
And is it good? And so they would, and so that's a strategy you could walk away with is in meetings, can you appoint somebody
Designate someone to, hey, make
you.
Sure you ask some very pointed questions about this. Because sometimes in our mid-sized business range, we have some powerful leaders, people that are powerful enough to sway a whole group.
Absolutely.
And they'll go, well, old Joe said blah, so we're all going there.
We're all going to jump off the bridge.
Even though we think it's crazy, we're going to do it anyway because we don't want to upset him. Ms. Nemeth found that even a single dissenter has the power to crack the foundation of a majority view, even when you don't agree with the outlier, when the outlier is just plain wrong. The act of dissent liberates your own thinking.
And so
pretty interesting.
That's good. That's okay. So that's an action item. We gave you lots of action items today, Pete.
A book to read in defense of troublemakers.
A book to read, a strategy to complete, and a phone call to make or an email to write to us to get your team aligned and started in the right direction.
Do it.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.